So we're part of God's family. He adopted us. The price of our adoption, the cost of our adoption, was the blood of Jesus, which means a lot. One of the things it means is if Jesus is your brother, if you've been adopted into this family, then I'm your brother too. And, turn that around. You're my brother. There are a lot of times we we act like 10-year-old brothers, right? Or grade school brothers. We fight each other, cats and dogs, and we, he's touching me. Okay, we got that part down. Here's an aspect of that that's worth noting. I can pound on my brother, but if you bother him, I'll pound on you. There's this thing. Well, okay. We're part of God's family. We are brothers with Jesus. The Hebrew writer says he's not ashamed to call us brothers and sisters. Okay. We talked about all that last time. In verse 14 of Hebrews 2, he expands on this familial relationship. Since the children have flesh and blood, that's us, we're the children. And boy, at this stage of my life, boy, do I get the flesh and blood part. And I'm reading through the Gospels, and each of the Gospel writers record Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, where it comes back to Peter and James and John, and they're asleep, and he says, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Oh boy. Since the children have flesh and blood, he too shared in their humanity, and here's why. So that by his death, he might break the power of him who holds the power of death. Who holds the power of death? Well, he goes on and says, that is the devil. The reason, I don't know if I could even say the reason, but one of the primary reasons Jesus took on flesh and became a human being, sharing in our humanity, is so that by his death, he would break the power of him who holds the power of death, and that's the devil, and free those who were all their lives were held in slavery by their fear of death. This was back in the 80s. All I remember is, I don't remember who it was, whether it was a song or spoken word, but here's the thought. When Jesus cried out his last and gave up the ghost and died on the cross, the devil, I think, was dancing a jig because he thought, I've done it. And he shook, this is my thought, shook his fist at God, the sovereign God, and said, I did it. Except, well, yeah, he did it. What he did was, he shot himself, because by Jesus' death, he defeated the only thing that Satan has dominion over: death. Well, and when he did that, he freed those who all their lives were held in slavery by the fear of death. I was in my probably 30s, late 30s maybe. No, mid 30s. When I read C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, early 30s. Didn't even know they existed until they were recommended at a conference I was at by one of the workshop speakers, and I thought, okay, listen, if you've never read the Chronicles, do yourself a favor and read them. The last book in that series, 7 pretty small books, very, very entertaining. The last book is called The Last Battle. And in it, the primary characters that have been throughout the entire series are killed, which is, that's a sad thing, except when they pass through from their life in Narnia to the next life, it was like they were liberated into the most real life ever. The catchphrase is farther up and farther in, and farther in and farther up. It's like, well, if you read it, you may not get the same buzz out of it that I did, but this tells you about my level of anxiety and fear. When I read that, from that time on, I've not been afraid of death. I don't want, a horrible, painful death. That, I kind of do fear if pain is involved. But death? Not really. Because I know what's ahead. Yeah, I don't know everything about what's ahead. I mean, there are things about it I have no idea. Well, I have some ideas. Anyway, what I'm saying is, we do not have to fear death. I mean, I died already on January 10th of 2011, and I don't. If that's how I die, that wasn't that bad. Well, okay. I don't know how I'm going to die. Most people don't know how they're going to die or when. I sure didn't. I had no idea in the morning of January 10th of 2011 that I was going to die. I thought I was going to have a fun round of golf with my friend Danny Hinkle, and then we were going to go buy a big screen TV and come home to their house and get it set up and plugged in, and then watch the national championship game, the NC2A national championship game. Well, didn't work out. Death is, in my opinion, death is a doorway. And if you, by faith, through grace, by grace through faith, however you want to phrase it, if you said yes to Jesus on his terms, then it's a threshold, a doorway to walk through to discover an unspeakable kind of new life. Okay. I get all tongue-tied about it because I'm grateful to be where I am and have all the blessings that I enjoy and experience. Today I'm in Danzenberg, Germany with our middle daughter Katie, and yesterday our youngest daughter Jenny and her husband Garrett and two of our good friends, their best friends, and their kids got here. We're going to have a full house of fun and activity, and it's going to be great. And then on Thanksgiving, we'll have 21 people around the tables to celebrate our gratitude. I'm so thankful for this. As much as that fills my heart, it's just a shadow of what I know I will experience when I cross from this life to that life through the doorway of death. Okay. To be held in slavery by the fear of death, that's not a big deal, right? If things are going well and you're feeling good, excuse me, life's rolling, but when you do wonder about, the life expectancy in the day that Hebrews was written was, people, some lived to be 60, but the mortality rate was huge. Somebody got a fever, for us, we, give them Tylenol or whatever, and if the fever doesn't go down, we go to the doctor. But in this day, if a person got a fever, you just prayed and prayed that the fever would go away. It was like step one of a march toward death. And then there was for Christians, the fact that they were being persecuted and martyred. Well, Jesus broke the power of death and freed us from the slavery of fear of death. To me, here's the challenge with that. I need to act like this is true. I have to believe it. And then my behaviors, my actions, which are a reflection always of my belief, they need to reflect that I'm not afraid of death. Yeah, I don't like the thought of leaving the one person I love most, other than Jesus, my wife Debbie, behind. I don't like the thought of leaving my 3 daughters and sons-in-laws and 4 grandkids. However, they weren't mine in the first place. They're God's. And I have this confidence that they will join with me and the host in heaven, whatever time either Jesus returns or they pass. So if I'm going to act like I'm not afraid of death, one of the things that ought to do is it ought to give me confidence to face whatever today holds. just step forward into it. And that's the hard part. Okay. I got to do better than this. I'll give it a whirl. I'll try next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.